the phone now.
I'm like, you look.
Whoa.
3, 2, we can't hear you. 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. Thank you guys for joining me today. Today is all about my first period and of course all the periods that I've had thereafter. They're totally not fun, so I get it. I'm with you, girl. I got the worst period. God did not bless me in that way. I don't have the cute little 3-day period. I have a full 6 days and it is not fun. But I can get into all the details right now. Before we get into all the details though, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, ding, 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 and make sure you guys keep up with what's going on here on That's So Morgan X. I got my first period when I was 12 years old. I was not happy about it, but luckily I was home. I have seen a lot of crazy things. I've been in classes when I was much younger than that and saw girls like been completely embarrassed because they got their period while in class and it would be on the chair. And you know, obviously when you're younger, like a lot of the guys think it's funny or like really, really disgusting. So it is really embarrassing. So I can say that I was blessed to get my first period while I was home. And I remember like calling my mom into the bathroom and she just was like, what is going on? And she's like, oh, well, you got your period. Like, and I just remember my stomach feeling like really, really queasy and crampy. And I didn't know what was going on. And so, yeah, she basically handed me a pad and was like, you know, this is how you do it. And then just in case you guys don't know, I'll show you how to use a pad. Where are my pads? All right, so here's a pad. I will let you guys know that I don't wear pads anymore. I've had really bad experiences with them due to my mom. But this is what the pad looks like. You go ahead and peel the sticky off of it. You peel it off its backing, and then you would lay it in your underwear and put the flaps underneath the underwear. So this is how it will look inside of the underwear, and it will catch all of the blood, and then you would just change this accordingly. So you guys are probably wondering, okay, so why don't you wear pads anymore? Well, like I said, I got my period when I was 12. My mom handed me a pad and said, you're off on your way. I walked like I was crazy when I went to school the next day. I looked like a mummy. I looked like I was constipated. I looked crazy. It just felt so weird having this weird thing sitting in the middle of my undies and just not feeling like myself. I didn't feel comfortable. On top of that, what they don't tell you is that the tampons don't really wick moisture. They kind of just allow everything to just kind of sit there. It was a really uncomfortable feeling for me. Still to this day, it's an uncomfortable feeling for me. To add the icing to that cake, I have been active my whole life. I have been playing soccer. I have been running track my entire life. And so I also not only had to adjust to having this thing on while I'm just walking and just trying to be a regular person and going about my day. And I was an active kid. I was a tomboy. I was always ready to like get down or whatever. And I wasn't able to do that when it was that time of month. And especially when I had track practice, I just didn't understand how this was even going to work, or soccer practice. I can tell you I've had many times where I had a lot of incidents just because I was wearing a pad and I didn't really understand that it wasn't going to obviously catch everything if I'm running and there's nothing to secure it. So, oh, by the way, if you guys see me peer down, I did take notes so that I'm just not rambling on, so that I'm able to follow what exactly happened. So what I ended up doing was, and it's so crazy now that I think about it, I'm like, girl, you could have just wore spandex, or you could have just wore like Spanx, or just anything. You could have wore anything. But I was young and I didn't know. My mom didn't really like expose me to a lot. Like I said, she was like very, very big on pads. She was like, you can't wear tampons. And so I had to like make it do what it do with what I had. So what I did was I had these underwear that were too small for me. My mom always wanted me to like clean out my drawer and I would be too lazy to do it. So luckily I had held on to a couple of pairs of undies that were too small for me. And I would put these on when I would have track practice. And obviously I would have those really ugly lines on my backside, but I mean, I didn't care at this point. Like, I just didn't want to have any more, you know, mishaps, or just like worrying, like while I'm at practice, like, can people see a spot? Like, do I look crazy? So I would put these little tidy whities on, and I would use 2 overnight pads. And if you guys know what the overnight pads look like, they're like twice as long as this pad, and they cover like literally everything. It's like literally like a boat. And so that is how I would protect myself. It wasn't until I turned about like 15 that I realized that my menstrual cycle is not, I wouldn't say like not normal, but not typical. I would start to talk to my friends more about it, because, like, you know, I was really becoming a teenager now. I wasn't like 12 and like it was kind of still weird. I was 15 and I was able to talk about it with my friends and be like, girl, like, how is your situation? Like, I just kind of want to know if mine is like normal. And that's when I realized that the symptoms that I was having wasn't okay. I had a very, very heavy flow. So imagine handling my heavy flow with using these pads. It was just, and being active, it was just not a good look. And I didn't understand that. Neither did my mom. My mom didn't have the issues that I had. I was cramping, but I was actually doing a little bit more than that. I was getting like flu-like symptoms, like the chills, hot and cold, sweating, throwing up, nauseous, cramping, blood clots. Like it was not okay. It was not okay. And that's when I made a decision. I was like, I'm wearing tampons. Like, I don't care what my mom says, I'm wearing tampons. And I don't advise this. Obviously, if your mom tells you not to wear tampons, I wouldn't do it. But my mom didn't understand what I was going through, because she had a light period her whole life. And, you know, like I said, I was an athlete. Like, I ran and played soccer all year long, and it just got to a point where it was a little gross to me. And also, that's when I realized I was going to start birth control, because I couldn't handle the symptoms that came along with my menstrual cycle. I hated that I had to be on birth control, only because it just made me feel different. I also just kind of felt some way at the time, because I knew that I wasn't sexually active, and I don't know, it was just a lot of things at the time that, you know, I feel like nowadays people know that when you're on birth control, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're sexually active. Sometimes it honestly helps with other factors, but it made me feel some type of way. But yeah, I basically was put on birth control, and I started using tampons, and that kind of kept everything at bay. Around that time, I started to use Seasonique, and honestly, I used Seasonique since I was like 15 all the way until I was like 24. So yeah, I used Seasonique for a really long time, and it worked out really well for me, because you only get 4 periods a year when you use that. And so with me being an athlete, it kind of like helped me a lot. I did spot a lot with it, but it did help me not have to feel so like gross when I had my period, or not have to like worry about every single month having a period, on top of worrying about track meets and being able to perform the numbers that I needed to do. And that brings us to now. What am I doing now? I no longer use Seasonique, and I obviously still use tampons. I refuse not to use tampons. Like I said, I do not use pads anymore. I actually only use the Tampax brand of tampons. And no, this video is not sponsored, but it's just the brand that I tend to go to. I have tried other brands, but sometimes I get like little leaks here, or they just don't do the job for me personally. So I know I can always count on the Tampax brand to get me right. So yes, these are the tampons that I use. As far as birth control, I have now switched over to Mirena, and my body is still adjusting to that. So I will keep you guys posted on how I feel about the IUD. It definitely is my body is definitely like, whoa, like what is happening? But yeah, but that's where we are now. But just to be clear, I still deal with those symptoms, the flu-like symptoms, the chills, the nauseousness, the throwing up. And so I'm hoping that the switch over to Mirena allows for me to you know, get away from that, and also to have less or like no periods at one point. So hopefully it'll work its magic. If not, we'll just try another route. But I made this video really to talk about my first period, but also to let you guys know that, like, if you too suffer from a crazy period where you just feel like, oh my goodness, like what did, you know, my maker set me up for, I just kind of wanted to have us like a place for us to like just come and like comment and, you know, talk about like what you guys are doing to help with your symptoms and how long you've been dealing with it, and yeah, like what you do. Oh, also I forgot to mention, aside from using birth control and things like that, when I do have those symptoms, what I do is I take one Midol and one Advil. And obviously that works for me. I'm not saying it's guaranteed to work for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you guys to go do this. I'm just telling you guys simply what works for me. And that is one thing that for sure works for me. I guess it just balances because the Midol has the caffeine in it, and the Advil is more of like the painkiller. I don't know, but I know when I take one of each, or you know, two of each separately, they don't do the job. But when I take them together, I am able to move and, you know, be alert and not feel like I'm in pain, not get that nauseous or, you know, hot and cold feeling. So if you guys are feeling any of that and you want to try that out, make sure you talk to a doctor first. But that is something that has been really effective for me throughout the years. But that is all. I want you guys to comment down below and tell me what you guys experience just being a woman. We all go through this. I think it should be a regular thing that we could talk about in conversation. What do you guys use? What brand do you use? You know, what methods do you use to calm your symptoms? How long is it? Let's just start the conversation. That's the end of this video. As always, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Mwah.